Both the city and we never slept. Laya stood on the fire every night. Escape from her apartment on the 4th floor. The promise of a sparkling skyline, just neon lights that were out of reach reflected off. Taxi horns blared below the glass windows. And the air carried the scent of ambition, and her fingers gripped a heartbreak tea mug that was chipped. And she didn't wait for her Riley closest friend's slumber. The girl who had been her roommate since orientation to college, when they had been connected and placed in the same dorm. Expensive coffee and a mutual dislike of. 5 years later, the frat boys were still professional women who are now united in their early 20s, balancing deadline avoidance, emotions, and residing in a flat that was consistently a bit too cool over the winter. The client's front door creaked open. Riley moaned and tossed as they met from hell, her heels outside the door and leaving. Her blazer serves as a reminder of why I work in advertisements rather than working as a barista in. Through the glass, Paris. Laya grinned, because life would get monotonous if it weren't a mess. Riley's eyebrow went up from the young woman who edits romance books but hasn't gone on a date for 6 months. They laughed easily and softly, like if they always did, and everything for a while felt easy until that evening when it didn't. After wine, poor takeaway, and repeats of Riley fell asleep with her after using the L word. The city outside, with Laya's head on her shoulder, fell silent, and Laya's gaze lingered on Riley's lips curve, the clusters of freckles resembling constellations over her cheeks in the manner that while she slept, her fingers twitched as if they were still drawing advertisements in midair. In private, she had adored her for years. Miserably, and she was unable to speak in spoken lines in section 2 of the next. The morning was a haze of mugs clinking, drowsy yawns, and 2 females attempting to pretend they weren't intertwined when they went to sleep. Riley stretched with him on the couch. She had her tank top up just enough to distract Wyla for longer than she would acknowledge. You stole the blanket once more. It literally covered you, Ya said, reaching for the coffee pot. Muttering. Riley smiled as if it were life support. All well, but I'll blame you if I get ill. She vanished into the restroom, off-key humming of a pop song. Laya gazed into her mug, which she loved. Her best friend completely failed. Heartbreakingly in love, and each day, breathing became really difficult around Riley. Act as though the flirtatious remarks were meaningless. Her heart didn't miss a beat when Riley danced or when fingers touched. In the kitchen, barefoot in her huge T-shirts, but it's risky to tell her. She was terrified of all they had. Took her laptop and accessed the most recent. She was editing a cliched manuscript. Romance that is full of wills and won'ts. 10 minutes of anxiety and slamming it shut. Riley arrived later that day. Too genuine. Carrying 2 tickets. Guess inside her room. Who got us tickets to the rooftop jazz concert? Last minute cancellation of the bar tonight. Yayla. Free wine, string lights vibes. Blinked. Isn't that similar to a date? Riley's smile was lighthearted. Definitely. So, you and I are simply too hot on Friday. Music-loving girls. Unless Wyla's stomach turned over. But what if? Nope. You have plans with someone else. I'm all yours. Riley's, she said too quickly. Expression momentarily wavered into an unintelligible format, and then it. Part 3 of the rooftop confessions was gone. Golden string was used to illuminate the rooftop. Fluttering candles and lights. A gentle, near the edge, a jazz quartet performed, and Riley's hair were lifted by a light breeze as she looked gorgeous as she sipped her wine. You okay? Was all that Ya could look at. Laya nodded when Riley nudged her arm, attempting to appear regular, saying, this is simply quite pleasant. It is. For a time, they sat drinking while others looked on, swinging along with the tunes. Then during Riley's swoon-worthy instrumental, once more rested her head on Wyla's shoulder. Do you ever consider how dissimilar? If we hadn't, everything would have been. Became roommates? She inquired. Wyla froze silently. Yeah, all the time. Riley moved slightly, allowing them to. Her expression was breathless as they faced each other. What would have changed for you? She asked. Yayla's heart thundered her in a whisper. Hardly more than a whisper. Maybe I might have informed you earlier. Said what? However, Laya was unable to respond at this time. Rather, she extended her hand to tuck a stray. Wrap her fingers behind Riley's ear. Hung around her cheek. And for one, unbelievably, it felt like Riley. Perhaps give her a kiss. But the song ended. The spell returned as people applauded. The atmosphere at the flat was electric. During the stroll, neither of them spoke much. The air felt heavier and more charged at home. Everything that they omitted from it. Rooftop each time their arms touched it. More than words could express. Riley opened the door, entered, kicked her out, and, heels, she said to Laya. So, would you like? Laya shook her. Some wine or something? Head. No, Riley. Riley's hand froze. Laya stepped while the light switch was still on. Forward. You gave me a kiss that night in. I never forgot college. Riley's breath catching. You recall how? Could I forget that I considered it for? I believed you were intoxicated for months. And I didn't want to destroy our relationship. But it hurt to want to kiss you back. Riley approached gently. So why didn't? They were inches apart, and I was afraid. I'm no longer afraid. Laya. Riley's hands reached her waist and murmured. Don't wait. And they gave each other a slow kiss at gentle reverence at first, then more desperate and starving, like years of bottled, all at once. Want was leaking out. Clothes fell in a trail to the floor. Neither of them could halt Wila's bedroom. Grinning in between Wila's finger kisses. As she traced Riley's flesh, she shuddered, learning to commit her anchoring to the moment she had dreamed about for years. There was more to it than lust. Comfort. They made love as it was at home. It implied that it was the truth in some way. They had been lurking in the dark. Conversations, internal jokes, and forehead. Every kiss said, I see you. I've always noticed you. Following a twist in the Riley muttered under the sheets. What now? Laya slowly made circles on her nude back, saying, we stay put while we work things out. Jointly, Riley grinned at her shoulder. Okay. Additionally, for the first time, Laya dozed off for the first time in years with her heart complete. What are we now? Part 5? Light from the morning poured through the drapes with soft gold Riley stripes. Initially blinked in opposition to the brilliance with her arms still encircling. For a few period, Wila remained motionless at her waist. She simply observed Laya's peaceful sleep. Calm, with her long lashes casting little shadows on her cheeks, it seemed, awakening in a dream that she never wanted to stop. But Laya's gaze opened, allowing reality to creep in. They gazed at one another in the sunlight. Other for a little period of time. Neither knowing how. It had been magical to start last night. But, hey Riley. Laya broke the quiet now. Grinned. Hey. A beat went by, and Wila added, I didn't want to leave. And you're still here. Riley's voice said, good Laya, in a whisper. Lightly cracking. I didn't want you to. There was solace in their candor. But also nervousness. So they dressed gradually, almost warily, as though attempting to destroy the fragile enchantment that remained in the air while they sat over coffee. The same location at the kitchen counter. They always did, but it felt like Riley began to play since things had changed. Was that a one-time incident with her mug? Laya's brows furrowed as she looked up. Do you want it to be? No God no. Riley's sighed. I don't want to. You're not assuming. Laya said. I meant what I said I want. She added quietly. To work this out together. Riley's shoulders lowered in relief. All well, then. Let's begin by going on a date with. Laughing, Laya said. A real one. Not one of our two closest pals inadvertently visit. Riley hangs out at a romantic restaurant. Smiled genuinely. Choose an outfit that I'm. Laya reached across to take you out. Counter and intertwined their fingers. You're not aware of how long I've been waiting. Inquiring that Riley squeezed me. You don't know how long she held her hand. That night as they went out. I wanted to. Riley brought her to a Camelot Italian restaurant. Laya was wearing a navy blue outfit downtown. Her curls loosely arranged in a slip dress and Riley's thoughts kept wandering. They laughed while they were just staring at her. grasped and touched knees beneath the table. Hands in the taxi on the return trip. Was no longer awkward or unclear. Was instinctive when they arrived home. They lay on rather than quickly undressing. The couch's limbs intertwined as they discussed everything that kids are afraid of. When they both had suspicions about one another, Laya muttered something that wasn't simply a buddy into. Are you of the opinion that Riley's collarbone is? When was the last time Riley kissed her forehead? I believe it has already. And we simply, unbeknownst to me, part 6 of the actual love world a week later, as well as being. It was easy to work together behind closed doors, movie evenings, and blanket sharing, preparing dinner together while feeling drowsy before work, but outside of things, kisses felt odd, but they kept it to themselves. Not their coworkers or friends. Not even their relatives. And although the quiet was not spoken aloud by any of them, started to affect them one Saturday. Riley sat at the kitchen island in the morning, looking through a group chat that is filled with pictures from brunch taken by mutual friends that we should tell them, she murmured, biting her lip. Laya glanced up from the sink. Tell who? Everyone. I mean, surprise. We're together, correct? Laya paused. We are, of course. But I'm not prepared for opinions of others. But Riley nodded. Yes, I am gently swallowing the sting. Understand that, yet the air felt more dense than. They got together with their pals at a. Laya sat next Riley at the downtown pub. Not too close, but close enough when someone. Laya laughed it off when asked if they were dating. Riley, who is still unmarried and doing well, froze. She felt a burst of heat behind her eyes. Her heart was sinking, but she faked a grin. Riley eventually stated it as he was making his way home. Do you not want others to be aware of us? That's not it. Then, because y'all stopped walking. Why does Riley's voice sound cracked? Tonight, Laya, I felt like I didn't exist. Felt conflicted, but it's not about you. I've always played it as the girl. Secure, risk-free, and this is us. I have never taken a bigger jump in my life. Riley approached, but I was all ready. I leapt for you, Yayla. After a long moment of stillness, Laya muttered, give me a little more time please. Riley nodded and said, all right, I don't want to depart. So don't take too long. Returning to acting, over the following few days, were calm, affectionate, and warm, but quieter until Riley returned home one evening. Candles unexpectedly illuminated the apartment, quietly playing background music, and standing there in the center of it, Laya, wearing a delicate crimson dress, was carrying. Riley blinked at 2 wine glasses. Is it me who smiled apprehensively? I told her to take a breath because she was brave. Everyone, including my mother and our friends today. I told everyone that I was in love. Riley's breath caught, and I did the same. And although it was frightening, it wasn't as. She hung on. As terrible as losing you. Her hand. So can we begin as anew? This time, Riley stepped in as the official couple. Grasped her hand and dragged her forward. Into a kiss, but only if you guarantee that. In a whisper, Laya said, it already is. Section 7. Developing into the city. Breathed with lights all around them. And countless opportunities. But inside, everything about their tiny abode felt like a fresh start. Laya and Riley woke up. Their fingers entangled in sheets. Following well-known routes when learning. The sun revealed new secrets in the morning. Through the windows, illuminating the light on their red faces. Laya arrived, initially removing a stray curl from Riley's forehead. This is unbelievable. Riley grinned drowsily, but it was genuine. It's the best kind of genuine. Yet neither. Weeks passed while they explored. Saturday mornings in the city hand in hand were for coffee cafes situated in the middle of buildings where they would discuss over steaming of everything and nothing. Lattes were for walks on rooftops in the evenings. The horizon glistened as they were dreaming, speaking aloud about their common future, secrets, anxieties, and occasionally laughs, weeping in silent vulnerability. Riley discovered that Laya's preferred flower was pieties. Laya found out Riley was guilty of 90s romantic comedies were enjoyable. At work, discoveries brought them closer together. Things changed as well. They now met for lunch. Their discussions were laced with lingering looks and inside jokes. Occasionally, Laya noticed Riley observing her. A gentle smile from the other side of the room. One evening after a long day, she played on her lips. They danced barefoot in the long day. Music throbbing in the living room between there. Outside, the city pulsed with bodies. Yet everyone. The warmth of Wyla's touch was what Riley sensed. The consistent heartbeat that matched. Laya muttered, her own growing into us. Riley drew back against his neck. Only enough to examine those profound. I'm prepared for everything that comes my way. Brown eyes. Beneath the city. Next to each other. Lights as they entered the future. Flawed. Lovely. And fully. Part 8. The unexpected. Contest the initial weeks of their. It seemed like a dream relationship. But reality somehow managed to infiltrate through the fissures one night while they sat in their favorite comfortable spot together. Riley's little bookstore cafe. When the phone buzzed, her ex was texting a statement that sparked an uneasy feeling. Laya saw right away in her chest. Riley's expression changed, and she hesitated before responding. Is everything all right? Riley forced a smile. She put her phone aside and said, yeah, just old. Nothing at all. However, the silence spread farther that evening between them. Laya was unable to get rid of the uneasy feeling. Was Riley suppressing something in the past? Went by, and Riley's working hours turned into erratic late at night and anxious. Laya felt unseen stirring after receiving texts. She felt alone and doubtful in her heart. Rainy night with hazy city lights. Finally, via their window, Laya broke. I don't want to fight, Riley, but I have to determine whether we are truly in this together. Riley was worn out, but sincere. I'm afraid of ruining this as well. Afraid of what others may think. I don't give a damn about what happens to Wyla's heart. Does anyone believe that I'm concerned about us? When vulnerability emerged, barriers they discussed in depth. Worries about the future and past scars they both desired but were afraid to assert by the clutching each other at the end of the night. Nearly, they discovered something more powerful than doubt, a will to deal with whatever comes. Adjacent to each other, since love isn't only the simple times are bold. Part 9 of One's 2. Healing together. This changed after that rainy night. The fences between Laya and Riley would, brick by brick, both began to crumble gently rather than loudly. Riley's purposeful hands started to open up, regarding her background and the times she had buried. Profound the skepticism held by others and she had been carrying her concerns alone for years. Listened to her gentle gaze without passing judgment, and maintain a safe haven during the storm. And Laya also expressed her feelings of insecurity. Concealed behind giggles the burden of being the one with strength at all times and how she yearned to be recognized for who she truly was. In actuality, they were no longer merely lovers. They worked together to gradually heal. They restored one vulnerable person's trust. Discussion when they had time. For mornings they've snatched in their favorite lazy afternoons in coffee shops, entangled in cozy blankets and impulsively explorations into the city's secret. One evening, as twilight tinged the corners, Riley, the sky is purple and gold. No matter what, she said, taking Laya's hand. If something goes wrong, I want us to be brave together. Laya grinned broadly and said, with you, always. They whispered a promise as they kissed, on lips that were permanently part. Together eternally. Spring had come, painting the city with gentle, aromatic paints, blossoming existence, similar to that of Laya and Riley. Connection their pals got together in. Fairy lights in Wyla's comfortable residence. Gently humming, sparkling melody. It was a celebration of love as well as bravery, development, and beauty. The messiness that comes with being raised by Jenna. Her best glass to Laya and Riley. We know a damn couple. May you always be in love. Be this ferocious yet compassionate laughter, and the gathering erupted in cheers as Riley squeezed Wyla's hand beneath the table with bright eyes. I never imagined meeting someone who sees me in my entirety. But you lean in, near, and you give me more courage than I've ever had Believed I might be alone myself later on the rooftop with the shimmering city lights below. They clutched each other tight like stars, whispering, "Whatever comes next, Laya, we face it together," said Riley with a grin. "Loving, together always." Additionally, as night closed down on them, it seemed